Thank you for joining us on the biggest story tonight. It's 7 p.m. I'm Niranjan, and the BBC docuseries trying to target the Prime Minister continues to be a talking point. More and more people who have watched parts of it, some who've seen the entire docuseries, are speaking out, calling out the BBC for the classic hit job. Here are the headlines on the biggest story tonight. WFI, or the Wrestling Federation of India, slanders victims, the wrestlers, and rejects the harassment charge. "302 signatories slam BBC for biased Modi documentary." Twin blast in Jammu, 6 detained by the police now being questioned. Rape convict Ram Rahim granted a 40-day parole once again. NIA reveals the PFI plot on killer squads. In the case of Praveen Nettaru, there are some very startling details that are emerging. Clashes between the ISF and the Trinamool Congress near Kolkata. Dramatic pictures emerge. And this evening, about 302 top citizens, eminent personalities, some of whom have been judges in India, some of whom have led the police force, diplomats, former IPS officers, former IAS officers, coming out and writing a letter calling out the BBC's documentary for what it really is, an attempt to target the Indian Prime Minister. Let's get you some excerpts of that letter. Before that, politically, the story is gaining a lot of political traction, if I can call it that, with opposition parties like the Congress, the RJD, now talking about this docuseries, backing BBC, believe it or not, for this biased narrative, despite all courts in India saying that there was no proof. Here's how the story is being used politically to try and push a particular narrative.
उनकी जन्मशती पर उन्हें स्मरण है, उनके विचारों के लिए, उनकी त्याग तपस्या के लिए, गरीब और अमीर के संघर्षों के लिए, मजदूरों के लिए, लोकतंत्र के लिए, संविधान की रक्षा के लिए। हम प्रेस की, मीडिया की आज़ादी के समर्थक हैं और विचारों की भिन्नता होते हुए भी इसको अन्यथा नहीं लिया जाना चाहिए।
जा रहा है गुजरात दंगों को
भारतीय समाज पर एक बदनुमा दाग है। हजारों हजार निर्दोष लोग उसमें मारे गए, लिहाजा उसके तथ्य अगर सामने आते हैं, इस पर किसी को ऐतराज नहीं होना चाहिए।
The first response, in fact, JDU also backing this documentary. Very interesting. Abhishek, you see the story being used politically. I think a lot of events, in fact, a few minutes back, I saw somewhere, Abhishek, in Maharashtra, it appears that somebody tried to pull out, or rather there is an event organized on Ishrat Jahan encounter. There is a book that is being officially backed. I just got that bit of breaking news update on Ishrat Jahan encounter. There is a book that is being released. Samajwadi Party is officially backing the release of that book. And then you time that with what is happening. It appears that there is this all-out attempt to somehow pull out these cases where there is no proof, just to embarrass, if nothing else, and keep that conversation going. Abhishek.
Well, Well, at one level, those were the darkest days for India's security establishment, Niranjan. The manner in which it was being hoodwinked, it was being manipulated and browbeated, in fact, to a certain political line by the political executive of the day. At that time, I believe it was the time of UPA too. But having said that, in this particular case, Niranjan, this is absolutely BBC gone bonkers. It's like Bonkers Broadcasting Corporation lost its sense of balance and the pain of being attacked as a nation, as a sovereign nation, and being manipulated, literally knifed with dishonesty. That's what this documentary is, Niranjan. They are not concerned about the fact that all these cases went through almost 2 decades of a judicial process. They are not concerned about the fact that a Supreme Court appointed, Supreme Court monitored special investigation team led by one of the topmost investigators of that time of the country, a former head of the CBI, gave a clean chit to Narendra Modi, following which he, of course, made an outreach to the minority community, asked for bygones be bygones and to move ahead. He created a new compact with every citizen of the country, based on which he got the mandate that he got in 2014, which was subsequently renewed with even more numbers in 2019. Subsequently and parallelly, we have seen the courts of the country, from the lowermost at the district level in Ahmedabad to the topmost court of the country, doing away with those cases and upholding the clean chit given by the SIT, Raghavan SIT, and then a review petition, then a curative petition. And what's most unfortunate is, Niranjan, when you see this peddling of lies, which continues almost as if all the intellectual dishonesty has to be owned by these critics of Narendra Modi, or for that matter, they would be immorally dishonest just because they want to target Narendra Modi. For example, this basic lie that 2,000 people died in Gujarat, which was never the case, about 700 Muslims and about 300 Hindus. If you really go that crude and mention numbers, just about 950, between 950 and 1,000. But that dishonesty with numbers still continues when at the drop of a hat they say 2,000 Muslims died, which was never the case. And also then, Niranjan, we have seen cases after cases where in this documentary, for example, the narrative of people like Teesta Setalwad and R.B. Sri Kumar and Sanjeev Bhatt is being peddled, despite the fact that it is their conduct now under the scanner and being investigated, and again reprimanded by the Supreme Court for having misused and abused due process of law. So I think someone in the BBC should be taking note of the kind of angst and anger that has really come out and respect these sentiments if they really care for, if nothing else, at least truth, which they have really taken for a ride by making that documentary, Niranjan.
Yeah, Abhishek, stay with me because you've also covered the Gujarat riots. You've been in Gujarat for most of your life before moving to Delhi. So it'll be interesting to get your perspective on what you saw back then. But let me go across to Major General Kochhar, also joining us on broadcast. Dhruv Katoch, I think General Dhruv Katoch, can you hear me, sir?
General Kochhar here.
General Kochhar, can you hear me, sir? Good evening.
Yes. Yeah, clear.
General Kochhar is joining us on the phone. So are you also signatory to this letter, General Kochhar?
Yes, I am signatory.
Yeah, okay. Can you tell our viewers why you think this narrative of the BBC this time has crossed all lines?
You see, the growth and popularity of our Prime Minister Narendra Modi seems not to be digested by certain people in certain countries. They have an agenda of their own, and this agenda is more or less being targeted for the next elections. And this is the beginning. Let me tell you, they have already started this agenda with this BBC program, and they are going to continue it further. They are getting into the internal affairs of our country, which we cannot tolerate. Nobody has got a right to speak what is happening within the nation. It is the internal matter of the nation, and especially when a Supreme Court judgment is there, what business has anybody got to question the judgment of the Supreme Court. Secondly, they are talking about the Citizen Amendment Act and mentioning that it is targeting the Muslims. Have they read the Citizen Amendment Act? Does it single out any one religion or any religious community? So it is absolutely clear. The agenda is absolutely clear, and we as a nation, you see, I am not a member of BJP. I am a citizen of India, and if I feel strongly about it, I am sure 130 million people of our country also feel strongly about it. And that is why we have voiced our opinion. We have condemned this particular statements or program emanating from countries who are inimical to the growth of India. I'm not saying that the governments are inimical, but there are certain strata of people there who are staying there, and there can be a Khalistan angle also to these things, because in the United Kingdom you have a large number of people who have been regularly targeting the Indian government and the Indian way of life.
The Pakistani population, sir.
Yes, and that is why we all as a nation today, irrespective of our political affiliations, must stand tall and must voice ourselves against this in the most emphatic manner.
Sir.
And we should curb this thing right immediately so that this narrative is not continued, because I have a feeling that this is a beginning, and there will be other attempts to target our political leaders, especially the government. I'm further reiterating that Jammu and Kashmir, Article 370, they have no business to say. It is the internal matter of the country. Today the situation in Jammu and Kashmir is almost normal.
So
the people are living a very peaceful life. There is growth and development. Economic packages have been announced by the government. Corruption has been curbed, and we have investments happening from the UAE and other countries into Jammu and Kashmir.
Yes. On that point,
that is why
I was saying, General Kochhar, because I also have Abhishek Kapoor. So you see, Abhishek Kapoor has he started his career, he's covered the riots, the aftermath of the riots, the conspiracy over the riots, and he was, just before you came in, General Kochhar, he was breaking down the details because he's seen it firsthand. He's reported on what he's seen, and he's been there, right, for decades, right? Now let me take it, and look at the timing, General Kochhar, taking your point of what you said of the position that we are in and what they're trying to do. The Prime Minister in a meeting says take everyone along, including the minority communities, irrespective or not, you get their votes. He says that a country like Pakistan not getting any attention from countries like UAE, not getting much help, but India stands tall in these countries as well. So it's all coming at a time when, everything that they possibly said, and you spoke about Kashmir, everything that they possibly tried to peddle has sort of fallen flat. The countries that are behind all of this are really at their weakest. So what they're essentially trying to do is go after someone's reputation by peddling such false news. Abhishek, from a reporting perspective, why don't you take us a little bit through the conspiracies that you saw unravel in the course of your reporting, and prima facie, when you look at this particular docuseries, why is it what we are calling a hit job?
Niranjan, see, for one, these points raised by very honorable, people of the country, honorable citizens of the country who have had varied experience in governance, have, excelled in whichever area they took up. They are investigators, judges, diplomats, bureaucrats, top cops. With that kind of experience, they are writing, coming out, and they have raised specific questions in this letter which they have addressed to the BBC. What's the locus of the BBC to question Article 370, which was, as part of the Constitution, intended to be a temporary measure? What's the BBC's take on triple talaq, for example, which is the only Muslim-specific measure taken by the Modi government and which happens to be in favor of the Muslim women? Having said that, because you asked about what happened on the ground, Niranjan, suffice to say that much of this propaganda and trash prepared by the BJP by way of BBC by way of this documentary is essentially picked up from whatever was being pushed by the Teesta Setalwad group and gang, if I could call it, Niranjan, and which itself stands discredited in the courts of the country and is under scanner and being investigated. So I think that's why I said the very basic thing that the BBC needs and to introspect is whether they approach this issue with absolute integrity of intellect, and that's where the issue is, Niranjan.
Okay, Abhishek and General Kochhar, I'll end by saying just one thing. I think General Kochhar said that this is just the beginning, and just before you came in, General Kochhar, I was talking about how there is a book release on Ishrat Jahan planned in Maharashtra, and the Samajwadi Party is behind it. So a lot of interesting things. I think all of them picking up these issues, timing it, there is perhaps a bigger campaign. We don't know, but it appears that that's the strategy, at least. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. I'm taking a short break right now. When we come back, it's also one of the top issues we are debating tonight.